and I'd like to kick it over to Tim Daniels to kick off the Well Wave Now discussion.
All right, thank you, Breck. Welcome to our guest. And just the introduction of Breck, for those who don't know him, is known as the healthcare disruptor and is also focused on community wellness. Delivered that through his company is called Brim Health, of which he is the chairman. Then we're joined by Bob Levine, who's a renowned brain researcher and foremost authority in eliminating pain without medication. And then I'm Tim Daniels. I am your wellness plan manager. Think of that like a general contractor for your health, as well as an expert in the PEMF, post-electromagnetic field therapy technology. Together, we are your panel for the well and discussion leaders for the Well Wave Now group. And that group is, I was looking, our topic today is on, headaches and neck pain and the association between those two. So I looked that up, I think that's of 2020. The CDC said about 15% of adult Americans, so Americans over the age of 18, had frequent headaches. I think that equated to about almost 40 million, 39.5 million. A week or two ago, we had a discussion on hypertension and saw that 20% of adult Americans face that. So why am I bringing up both those statistics? There's some overlap, right? Because hypertension can drive some headaches. But you look at that, that's a lot of sick Americans, right? And that's what we're about with Well Wave Now. And we want to bring a wave of wellness going beyond just getting out of the disease states to getting to thriving to Americans and provide you the information, resources, his ability to do that. And one of our key ways is this show, which we provide kind of advice and thoughts to America with that. Okay, and as part of that, so I welcome our TikTok guests and welcome our folks joining us through Zoom as well. And then as part of that, for the ones here in Zoom that I can see, sample that. We tailored this first half hour, was sponsored by our sponsor. We do officially go 30 minutes, but then if there are questions, then we'll stay longer for approximately an hour to answer those. So as part of that, if Diane, Bernard, or Tommy, the three I like to call out here, they're local here with us, if you've got anything any questions that you have right now or anything you want to make sure is covered in this particular area, feel free to go off mute and let us know.
Or stick the questions in the chat, maybe. That would be probably
the other way too. Now you can always stick your questions in the chat at any time, and we'll try to address those as we go along, and certainly in the second half hour if we need to.
That way we can work the subject matter into the conversation.
Sure. Either way. But would like to, if anybody's got some special thing here, objective we'd like to get up front as well. But if not, we'll go ahead and move forward. So with that as well, Bob and Breck, as we were chatting a little bit, there are many types of headaches. And we don't want to be guilty like I was before on hypertension, just leaping right into it and without people necessarily defining that for people. So Bob is our since this is brain related, if you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the various types of headaches, that would be great. And I know you also have a thought, and why I also turn that to you is because regardless of some of the sources, I think you have a commonality of the way you'd like to approach it. So some of the underlying ways you'd like to approach it. So turn it right over to you on that.
Headache is really tough for people. When we're talking about headaches, there's so many different classifications of headaches. And I always wondered in my early days of my PhD research when I always wondered, why is it that we have like so many different classifications and that, they have a lot of overlap, and I realized that the reason we have all that is because we're looking for ways to kind of separate groups of people with different headaches, so we can maybe find different pharmaceuticals to help people alleviate their headaches. What I want to say about that, having dealt with many hundreds of headache patients in my career, the medications are not that great. People tend to not like them so much. It dulls the pain, but it can really not feel very well for them. So, but there's cervicogenic headaches, there's migraine headaches with and without aura, there's sinus headaches, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole slew of them. I tend to look at the headaches like, hey, you got head pain, you got a headache. That's really simple. And then say, okay, now, because I don't look at the diagnosis, I look at the symptoms, and so you got a headache. How are we going to alleviate those symptoms for you naturally, so you're not needing to take pharmaceuticals? And there's lots of ways to alleviate headaches. And the reason why there are a lot of ways to alleviate headaches naturally is because I believe there are a lot of inputs to headache. The inputs to headache come from a lot of places. You could have referred pain from the peripheral nerves going into the head, causing headache. You can have, I believe Breck mentioned earlier today, hydration. You're going to talk about that later, Breck. But there's a neuromuscular component to headache. And the one thing I would like to say to headache patients out there is that, well, from my experience, when I deal with the treating headache patients, if they start to get a headache, the symptoms start to come on. And then they say, uh-oh, the first thing is, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. The headache symptoms are coming on. There's a stress response. There's a reaction to the acknowledgement of the headache. And then the person can drive their way automatically right into the headache. And that's what I call the automatic pattern leading to the headache, right? The automatic pattern is, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. How bad is this going to be? How long is it going to last? So people don't, when the headache symptoms come on, I coach people to interrupt that uh-oh response and say, oh, congratulations. I've noticed that I have headache. The headache symptoms are just beginning. They're just starting. And I have the ability, just by using my breath and my intention and my future visioning, I'll talk about that a little bit later. I can use all of that to interrupt that automatic pattern. And then guess what? The headache symptoms have an opportunity. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but many times the headache symptoms have an opportunity to just disappear. So that's all I'm going to say for now. There's more to discuss, but I just wanted to give that little intro so that people who get headaches will know that if they go into the uh-oh phenomenon, they're gonna reinforce it. They might even be bringing it on, and if they can interrupt that through some things we'll talk about on today, then they'll have a great chance of not having that headache come on.
Okay. Now, well, Bob, with that, do you distinguish between, I'll step back for a second. In that, I think statement of frequent headaches as it relates to pain is the third most frequent cause of people stating that to their doctors. I think arthritis is ahead of that, and there's one other that escapes me right now. So, and I bring that up because do you distinguish when you talk about a need to interrupt it? Is there a distinction between those underlying that are caused by underlying conditions, or I think what they call primary? There are primary headaches, and there are those that are caused by underlying conditions. Does that factor into your interruption scenario?
Yeah, automatic pattern interruption scenario. Well, so I look at it like there's so many factors. I look at it like headache is there's a threshold for headache. Above the headache line, you enter into headache. Below the headache line, you're not going to have a headache. So, what are some of the factors that feed into that? A great example is women who have hormonal changes around menstruation. Often they call it, some people call it the menstruation headache, where that kicks them over the threshold to get the headache, and then the hormones come into balance post menstruation, and then they don't have a headache anymore. But why is that some women do this and some women go into headache and other women don't go into headache? And because they all have this similar phenomenon when they menstruate. So why is that? Some do, some don't. And the majority, it's not like the majority do. There's a certain segment of women who do that. So there's other factors. Obviously, to me, there have to be other factors where they're feeding into getting women and people in general to express headaches when they go above the threshold. And so they could be here, but let's say I'm trying to put my hands right here. They could be below threshold, and then they go the uh-oh phenomenon. It kicks them in the headache. They could have the menstruation hormonal changes that could come in the headache. They could have a combination of all of these things. It could be neuromuscular phenomena, neuromuscular movement patterns, referred pain from nerve trigger points that are referring pain up into the head. Could be related to hydration, nutrition. Breck's going to talk a little bit about that. So
Yeah,
I look at,
we're still in Breck's thunder, Bob. You know, yeah.
yeah, well, I'm seeding. It's called seeding, Tim. I'm
There
seeding.
you go. There you go.
Talking, so yeah.
Right,
So, but Breck's going to be the expert on that for sure. So
right.
that's the way I think about it. I think it all is a threshold phenomenon, many factors leading into the headache, and people need to learn about, and this is what I teach people, learn about all the different factors that could be leading in, look at their lives and see what factors they potentially have that are feeding into kicking them above threshold, and then interrupting those and minimize those inputs.
Right, but I'll go right to you here, Breck, in just a second, just to comment on that. And with the way that you were talking through that, Bob, what that reminded me of is I've got a person who's what I know that her name is Shirley Ha Chalk, runs the IP Tai Chi Center up in Milford, Connecticut now. And that her philosophy, I was talking about is that I think she might have been born in Taiwan, but very raised in America, but also spent some time back in Taiwan. She was saying in the Eastern philosophy, mind and body are not separate. They affect each other. Said sometimes, a lot of times we think they're in Western culture, that's separate. And that just triggered that thought to me. We said kind of regardless of basically we're saying regardless of the underlying cause, mind and body are one, and your mind can impact it regardless of whether or not it's a primary headache that's not driven by hypertension, or if it's one that is driven by hypertension because of that intertwining of that. But now, so let's switch a little bit because before now that Bob is seated, we'll have Breck water a little bit. So some of the ways we want to talk about. Breck, also feel free, because I know you spend a lot of time in the medication room. If you also want to talk about medication and headaches, what can they drive? But some of the things we want to talk about is how you live your life naturally on a day-by-day basis, and your other work, community wellness, that says, in addition to that mind that interrupted. I always get Bob's got that nice fancy name for it, that pattern, mind, body pattern interruption.
Automatic pattern recognition.
Automatic pattern
And
recognition
interruption.
And interruption.
I never kind of remember that. I have to just call it Bob the interrupter. So as Bob interrupt, so he teaches how to interrupt. But in addition to interrupting, there are other ways I know you like to talk about to avoid headaches and to address them when they come in that are natural as well. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And also for everybody joining on TikTok, just this is a different format than you're used to. I know you're used to seeing the one-on-one face here, but I do like to turn the screen around so make sure that everybody sees the other presenters that are here today. Dr. Bob, wave Dr. Bob so everybody can see you. There he is. And then Tim. Yeah, so this is actual, live feed. This isn't just a recording that you're watching. So I want to make sure everybody on TikTok is aware of that, and thank you for joining. And then I see a couple of new friends that just joined also on LinkedIn. So welcome Dr. Lewis, Damara Lewis, and then Cheryl McBride that are here as well on the Zoom. So thanks for being here. But yeah, I absolutely try to find ways that would minimize the amount of prescription medications or even over-the-counter medications. If you can alleviate something like a headache other ways, then I'm going to suggest it, because there's just so many negative side effects when you look at some of the medications that are used to control pain. And in this case, we're talking about headaches and all the different ways that headaches can come. Right. I mentioned earlier today somebody that I can tell when I haven't gotten the proper amount of sleep, because I get that what I call a sleep headache. I just know that I haven't had proper amount of sleep. But I'm in a different part of the country than Dr. Bob and Tim. I'm here in the desert of Arizona, and it gets pretty hot and dry this time of year. And so my number one thing on my list here is hydration. You've got to be properly hydrated or you're going to get a headache. Your hydration is so key and so important, and dehydration is a common effect or a common side effect is going to be that headache. And so I think we all know the standard, 8 glasses of water per day. Um, and some people take their water in funny different ways, with soda and carbonation and a lot of sugar. No, you just need some good water, just some good filtered water, and get at least 8 glasses of that per day. Some of the, if you want me to get into some of the dietary things too, you should look at things with, high levels of magnesium. So magnesium rich foods like spinach. One of my favorite go-to during the day, I've mentioned this on previous discussions, is, a handful of almonds. Also high in magnesium. So they're magnesium rich almonds, avocados, one of my favorite.
Do you salt those almonds? I remember we had one question a while back on those nut that one. Do you salt those almonds?
I
Brett?
don't. I
Okay.
don't. I can tell you. I'll show you right here's a bag I'm almost finished with right here. And I've got another bag just from Costco. Just the baking almonds. I just get the baking almonds that are unsalted, and that's just a wonderful treat. The sweetness of the nut comes out a lot better when you don't have all those flavorings and salt and everything on it. But yeah, so foods that are rich in magnesium are also good. Omega threes, get your fatty acids from omega threes. So fish oils, flaxseed, walnuts are really good with omega threes as well. You've probably seen those little snack packs, of different nuts and fruits and stuff, and it'll say high in omega three. Well, the only thing in there that gives you omega three is the walnut, but they're advertising the heck out of it that it's your little snack pack that's high in omega threes. So a couple items that I are kind of my go-to, but do you want me to continue on my list? Because I do have a
Sure.
list.
Well, absolutely. I'll make a couple comments before I forget. I didn't do my pulse electromagnetic field therapy on my head today, so it's slipping a little bit in the memory. So I got to go ahead and do it now. I think it's the what, and keep me honest here because I'm just kind of stretching my memory here a little bit. But I think it's both the omega threes and omega sixes stuff that both affect inflammation in the body. And I think that's some of when we talk about why those are good and other things, and even the water, because water can help flush that out. Inflammation can be a key trigger of a lot of things, amongst those the headache. The other thing that just leaped to mind so much here is, people were saying what's the magic pill? What's for this? And the magic pill, in a lot of ways, is lifestyle. Is what you're talking about. And what Bob talks about a little bit, and the automatic pattern recognition and interruption is a life. There you go. Is a lifestyle of mental attitude and focus and practice. And when you talk about the hydration and you talk about the nuts and things of that, it's lifestyle. And lifestyle affects so much. That is part of the well wave. You don't have to live the life of a monk, but if you live a decent lifestyle, a lot of the things and challenges can be reduced and are eliminated. And I think that's a little bit of a constant theme that we have. So it's what is that right lifestyle, and how do you start going about making sure you live it and integrate it on a daily basis, that type of thing. Go ahead, Bob.
I just wanted to make a comment. What you said has triggered me to remember that postural misalignments, aberrations, or issues, dysfunction in the neck, neuromuscular system. The one class of headaches that has been classified is a cervicogenic headaches. These are headaches that they say originate in the cervical region, the upper regions of the spine, the neck, basically, if you will. And so, I think a lot of headaches have some form of neck dysfunction. There's always the forward head posture. There could be a neck displacement, scoliosis, and all of those things could feed in. It could be some of the underlying inputs to go kick people over threshold. So postural misalignments are a factor, and excess neuromuscular contraction. And is a factor in the body. So, and it can
Yeah.
affect it.
Yeah, I was going to also mention that regular exercise, right? Because that all has to do with what you've taught us before, Dr. Bob, and having, proper, just even proper walking technique, and helping with your alignment of your posture. But the other thing that regular exercise does is it releases endorphins. And what are endorphins? They're natural painkillers, right? So there's some really tremendous benefits from getting regular exercise, reduces those endorphins. I remember back when my wife and I were training for marathons. We would run literally, if not one or two every year, and we trained pretty regularly for those. And you would be so exhausted and tired, but you'd feel so just just energized from running those races. And it's because of the all those endorphins that are released.
Did you still get your sleep? I remember we had our discussion on healthy sleep. Did you get that healthy sleep? And you think that helps avoid
Yeah,
headaches?
absolutely. And it's so much easier when you're completely exhausted and thoroughly wiped out. It's so much easier to immediately go right to sleep too, right? Yeah, Dr. Bob, you got some comments.
Well, when you were talking about sleep, it reminded me of some of the clients that I've had with caffeine withdrawal headaches. So people don't realize it that if they're very if they drink a lot of coffee, they have a lot of caffeine in their system. Some people feel like they need to have their cup of coffee, and one of the reasons is because they start to feel like they're going to get a headache coming on, so they drink more coffee. So you have people drinking 4, 5, 6, cups of coffee a day. So, which I personally don't recommend drinking that much coffee. So one way to combat that is to just go cold turkey, no coffee. And I've had people who had to go to bed for a couple of days because they were so wiped out from not having the caffeine in the system. But when they broke through after the day or two, however long it took them in particular, they felt great, high energy. It was really amazing. So just keep in mind, if you're a coffee drinker and you get headaches, could be related to the caffeine withdrawal, which happens really fast
Which,
over short periods
which
of time.
is which is a diuretic, right? Which dehydrates you, and so you need to also replenish with fluids, right?
And alcohol is a dehydrator too. So when somebody's drinking, they got to remember to drink a lot of water too.
Right. So
Yeah.
that gets back, that touches on that lifestyle again. Like I said, whether it's alcohol, whether it's coffee, things of that nature. And I think people have to, all right, just be cognizant of, like you said, that caffeine can work two ways. One, you can have too much, it can cause a headache. Two, if you have a little bit, you get dependent upon and have a little withdrawal, cause a headache. And that's the same with opioids as well, right? You too many of them, headache, you start weaning yourself off this headache, you got to go through that. So it's how do you manage through that? And managing through that and other parts, some of the natural ways you guys have also, I remember you mentioned to me, was massage, potentially acupuncture, things of that nature maybe of some benefit as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So what about stress management? Doesn't stress, it goes back to those muscles tightening up and
Mhm.
yeah, de-stressing is so important. If you have somebody who's a headache patient, I've had clients who are well, every client I've ever had, I'm doing de-stressing with because it's like Tim, you talked about the mind body connection, the
Mhm.
mind and body being one. Absolutely true. One affects the other. It's fine, back and forth. So if somebody's being stressed, they're going to have all kinds of phenomena that occur to affect their health in a way, dysfunctional way, a way that they don't want. And so de-stressing is super important especially for headache people, because it's just the whole, a lot of people don't even know they're experiencing stress when they have stress. And so if they don't know they're under stress, then the headache is there, then they're really messed up, right? So, but if they understand that they can de-stress and that can cause a headache, that they can actually interrupt the automatic stress reactions that occur, and then the headache symptoms can disappear. One last thing I want to say is that maybe it's not the last thing I want to say, but one other thing I want to say is that so I've taken people in chronic migraine headache the kind of migraine headache where they think it's going to last 4 days. Migraine headache patients can really tell the character of the headache, and they know when they're going into a deep one. It's going to last a long time. And I've been able to talk to those people over the phone, and in a matter of maybe 20 to 30 minutes, help them interrupt that automatic pattern and free them of the migraine right there on the phone. These are also people I've never even met who found out about me. They called me, they contacted me, they wanted me to help them with their headache. So all of this can be done. There's all kinds of ways to help people. It's just a matter of figuring out which of these multiple inputs into the headache are at play.
I think some of that. So I think the interruption, the stress management, I could call it stress mastery. You guys know I have a course coming down on stress mastery. On that, and part of that, Bob, will be is the way how can you identify you're in stress. Some of those things are are you snapping at someone? Is your mind racing? Do you feel anxious? And there's ways that you can look at degree or stages of stress of that. But those are some ways you really can do yourself monitoring on that. But one of the things I also want to chat a little bit about here, and I think we're almost out of our regular half hour, so we'll probably spend a second part on headaches next week. However, as part of that, I think for a lot of people, in addition to lifestyle, you got to have there's also a customization component of headache management. And what do I mean by that? Certain smells trigger headaches in some people, but not in others. Certain times, when I remember when I was a high school wrestler versus a collegiate one and cut weight wrong and skipped too many meals on that way. If I skipped the meal, too many of them had a headache. Other people could skip X number, a different number, it wouldn't be a headache. Sometimes for certain people, temperature fluctuations in the room or things that are outside trigger a headache. So it's very much gets back into me that self-awareness is part of it. To a lot of the things that we talk to, the hypertension, this area, other topics, there's a self-awareness required to say
just
what
me. Did Tim lose sound?
you. Pardon?
It's just you, Breck. I'm still hearing Tim.
Yeah. So it's self-awareness of what affects you. And I know a lot of us don't, I won't say that. Some people I didn't used to like to, and I still don't like to, but I'll do it if I've run into a certain situation, I'll keep a little diary, a little note for a couple of weeks and saying what's affecting me this way, what's happening this way. So now I can benchmark myself and baseline it and start knowing what to avoid, what to do that makes me feel certain ways that I like feeling, for example. Go ahead, Bob.
Cool. I just we've been talking about some natural ways to help with alleviate headache. And one of the things I wanted to bring up, which people have used, that just occurred to me when you were talking, Tim, is peppermint or the essential oil of peppermint. Because you can take peppermint when you feel a headache coming on, and you can rub it on your temples or rub it across your forehead hairline, which is really a great way to do it. And if it's at night and before you go to bed, you can actually massage it into your scalp. But that works wonders for some people. So if you're the kind of person who benefits from that, that's a great way to help interrupt the automatic pattern of headache, as I would say.
Now, I'd just mention that it's diluted peppermint oil. Don't use straight.
Yes.
Everything's diluted in Arizona, Brad. I was actually born there, so I could say that. But where I was raised in Nebraska, we take it full strength.
Yeah, it's a little
no dilution
strong
in Nebraska. Full strength.
Yeah, typically people dilute
Peppermint
the peppermint oil with a little bit of water, but you don't, or oil, massage oil works well.
And why do that?
Just because the peppermint, as Breck pointed out, the peppermint oil full strength could be quite strong, and maybe it could irritate the skin as well. So people usually mix it with like coconut oil is a really great one. Just a little bit though. You don't need to dilute it too much.
Yeah.
And before we go to see if there's any questions that I'm seeing in the chat at this point, I gotta mention my favorite, the high-tech yet natural modality, which is pulse electromagnetic field therapy. Why is it high-tech? Because we package it up and there have been all kinds of scientific awards around it. Why is it kind of natural? Because we're really just replicating frequencies that come from the earth. that interacts with us on, on a basis to keep us healthy. And if you look at a number of the things that and I always like to say people should make an informed decision on this technology to look at as to whether or not it should be part of their wellness hygiene, like brushing our teeth is part of our hygiene. Why do I bring it up in this case? You look at the things we've talked about: stress, inflammation, sleep, hydration, diet. PEMF helps in all those areas. You say, how's it help in hydration and how's it help in diet? Well, part of what PEMF does is improve blood flow. So when you improve the blood flow, the water you take in, it gets distributed better. And when you improve that blood flow, the nutrients you take in, they're distributed better, more oxygen get to the cells function better, they uptake them better. And they just naturally, that oxidation that goes on in the body helps with relaxation. It also gives the metabolic waste out, helps with inflammation. So it's a tool great for and helpful in headaches areas. And I actually have had people who've had flurries of migraines, and for one every day for 30 days, use the PEMF on them for 5 days. It subsequently went down, and then periodically after that, subsequently went down to where they were having 2 or 3 migraines per month as opposed to every single day on it. So even in that case, I've seen it help. And in that case, to the ones who haven't completely grasped Bob technique, but have this, I've also seen it been able to help interrupt when someone's starting to have a headache if they start using it right then as well as that.
Yeah, I'm a strong component of the PEMF technology. So, I mean, to me, that's one of the essential components of longevity, healthful longevity. And Tim, for everybody who's here, Tim's an expert in PEMF. So if you want to learn more about that, have a chat with him. Tim, you may want to put your contact information in the chat. I already put mine in the chat. If any of you are interested in talking more with me offline, you can contact me through that information that's in the chat. And anybody who doesn't have the chat, my link is drbobtalks.com. drbobtalks.com. That's my background information that you can check.
And for me, so those
I was going to mention, just to go along
my email for the TikTok crowd, my email is tim@wellnesswaveclub.com. Again, tim@wellnesswaveclub.com. But we also have our esteemed colleague, the Healthcare Disruptor, on TikTok. And so you can reach any of us through the Healthcare Disruptor, Breck Rice, on TikTok, and reach him there as well.
Yeah, I was just going to continue on with how important that circulation is, right? The microcirculation. We were kind of focusing on the head and where headaches, originate from, and it's probably a good crossover connection, right? To talk about that your brain is an oxygen hog. Literally utilizes 20% of the oxygen supply. Now it obviously has to get it through the blood circulatory system, and so when you're improving circulation, getting more microcirculation, you're getting more oxygen into the cells, into the bloodstream. Then that helps with the whole brain, and you think about that, how the brain only represents what 2% of your body mass, but yet sucks up about 20% of your oxygen utilization. So that PEMF can't do anything but good in increasing the amount of oxygenation into the bloodstream to make sure that your brain is getting plenty.
Right, and they found it helps with the brain. I think it's called the lymphatic system. They found the brain with clearing that out and working things through there, as well as in terms of the brain. They're finding more and more circulatory systems, I call it systems, in the brain itself, that actually, when you improve that blood flow up there, you can improve the oxygenation of the brains there directly, and working that as well.
It's going to help with memory, and it's going to help with mental acuity and sharpness and responsiveness, everything.
Right, and concentration, so you can concentrate on Bob's future visiting.
Yeah, that's right. They got to have the concentration. Oxygen-induced concentration of future visioning. I like that.
There you go.
That's a mouthful. I will never repeat that. But yeah, so we could actually take some interaction from the crowd if they're up for it.
Absolutely.
And so anybody out there want to have a conversation about anything related to what we've discussed so far today?
For everyone on TikTok, please feel free to join the Facebook group, the Healthcare Disruptors Well Wave Now group. You can ask any questions in there. The link is in my bio. Just click on the little circle, Brim Wellness, and get the link to the Facebook group.
Yeah, but I'm glad you mentioned that, Breck. That triggers something else in my mind. Make sure to mention is that, if you found this information helpful,
Oh, yeah.
well, let us know and invite a friend next week. We meet this Tuesday every time. If you didn't find it helpful, let us know so we can tailor this and bring it forward. If right now we're kind of picking our own topics based upon the experience we've had in community wellness, and Bob has his practice, and I see and things that are out there, statistically as large impact things. But we really want to be responsive to the community here. So if you've got topics you say I really would like you to dive into, we're happy to do it and research. If we don't have enough on it, we'll research it, or if we need to, we'll bring in a guest panelist and we'll work on that. We're also always on the lookout for providers that are like-minded, that of that have had impact in helping people achieve optimal wellness and super aging and anything along the spectrum, so that we can be of help with them. That's also part of our mission, is to help those providers get exposure, get resources, be matched up with the people that need them. So any of those would be very helpful for us. And again, you can reach me if you want to send it that way to tim@wellnesswaveclub.com, or through for TikTok folks through Breck's messaging to him there as well. Okay. Yep. Diane, nothing this week for us to handle?
Well, okay, since you're prodding me, I was exposed to a concept of a myelin lining around the brain that shrinks dehydration, right? And that shrinkage of the myelin lining is the cause of, almost all headaches, and that they more often than not, start in the morning when you've not been hydrating for the entire time that you've been in bed. And I wonder if you could add to that, or dispute that, or agree with that, or share with me about that.
Could I jump in on this one?
Go ahead.
Okay. The myelin sheath is typically the sheath that surrounds certain nerve cells that traverse throughout the brain and in and around the brain. And the myelin sheath accelerates nerve conductivity, and also can serve as somewhat of a protective mechanism as well. Whoever was saying that this myelin sheath becomes dehydrated, that would be in the realm of hypothesis and opinion. I don't think there's any evidence for that. Certainly for hydration, I can definitely get on board with that, which is why I always keep very clean water next to my bed, so as soon as in the morning when I get up I can start hydrating, because you're right, we're not drinking all night long. So but then again, I don't drink a lot of water before I go to bed either, because I don't want to be up all night excreting that water. So I usually stop drinking around 6 to 7 p.m. range, and if I go to bed between 10 and midnight, I'll wake up between 5 and 7, let's say. I'll just start drinking my water then. And yeah, so I think Diane, hydration, the point you bring up about hydration is super important. It's really something that can really eliminate or ameliorate the symptoms of headache pretty quickly, if it's related to dehydration, which it may be and it may not be then.
Okay. And then the other suggestion was that Celtic salt would be just because it has so many minerals, and it would be really valuable to be in the water to cause the body to absorb better, and that our brain needs that type of salt. True? Not true?
I mean, okay,
Opinion again?
yeah, to me, I mean, well, there's water and then there's water. So water has different structures to it. So that's a whole nother, we could have 2 shows on that too. But I would say I've heard of the Celtic salt being facilitatory to getting water to enter the brain. Personally, water flows downhill, high concentration water, low concentration water. So to me, that's the way water flows. And that's going to, that's, I don't know that you have to, try and enhance water absorption necessarily. Although there are people who are water experts about the different types of water that would likely disagree with me. So I'm just sharing with you my opinion. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
as opinions go, Diane, I've heard something similar to that. Like, there's all the rage right now of getting the hydrogenated water, and they have those little devices that put the hydrogen bubbles in your water.
Structured water.
Structured water, yeah. And still, you're using a filtered water, which is filtering out all of the minerals that you would get naturally from water. And so how do you get those minerals back that you should be, consuming when you drink good water? But we filter it out because we're also wanting to filter out the things that will kill us too.
Yeah, the garbage. Yeah. So
Right.
there's minerals you can add back to the water, which is a way to go. But I mean, I drank distilled water for 20 years, and distilled water has no minerals in it. I made it through that. So I don't know. I'm just not, I don't think that it's necessary. Of course, it depends on your diet too. Because if your diet is terrible, then you probably got to add a lot of stuff back to your water to help you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, were you not washing your carrots? You just eat them with the dirt and everything on, and
Well, there's
No,
never one magic bullet, right? There's always, multiple layers to every one of these things. So thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you all for that.
thanks.
Yes, and I would just say, I'm really speculating on this one. I will say this is not in my area of expertise at all, but I'm just going through what's making sense to me right now, which you guys may say it's nonsense, but we're gonna put it out there anyway. One, I think there's a lot of ways you can get minerals. So I don't know if I necessarily would get them through salt. I go back a little bit on the salt part that Breck mentioned. I remember when I used to have a lot of salt and sugar in my diet, and I went through kind of a phase where I got that out. I really could taste food differently, and tomatoes tasted differently to me. And so that's when I realized, that maybe there's some benefit to salt in some circumstances, but it doesn't need to be in there as much as possible. And you can get mineral water without the salt. You can get out some people like, we got to do a thing on water because there's the structured water, the alkaline water, the salt water, and all those things we got to talk
Reverse
about.
osmosis water, distilled water, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my belief. I wouldn't advocate having salt water. Might I take some salt that had some minerals in it in moderation? But I think I can get my minerals through good diet and then through other supplementation that might not have to be packaged and carried by salt necessarily.
yeah, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good comments. Other comments, questions?
Tomorrow, I want to thank Damar and Cheryl. I think you guys have got and Tommy are the first time participants with us here. I want to thank you for joining. Certainly, if you've got any comments or you've got any questions, I'd love to have you throw them out to us a little bit.
And if not, we can wrap.
There goes Damar came off mute.
Timely subject. My wife gets headaches, and I think it's partially hormonal, and I think it's also stress. And one of the things that actually helps is essential oils, just in the fact that they're very aromatic. And so then taking them, typically you're breathing them in, and usually within 20 minutes, she gets results from that. But I think that again, it's multifactorial, and but I think that I think just like Dr. Bob was saying, is medications for the most part are basically masking symptoms. and as opposed to really looking at what the underlying cause is. And
Right.
so,
Yeah, those essential oils.
And
Yeah.
you made the comment there, Marcel, thank you for that. And you made the comment that partial hormonal, and Bob talked on it a little bit. And and that's not a sexist comment. If you look at it, 20 of that amount, there are 20% of females have more frequent headaches. And some of that has been, I think, I take you back to my old University of Chicago statistics days. I was about to say it was a cause, but they would say it's a correlation. So there has been a correlation between hormones and the headaches that come about to address that as well. And so I think while the genders are equal, there are differences in the chemical makeup that that kind of drive things a little bit. We got to understand that.
Next week, I'll talk about a clinical trial that I did years ago with chronic migraine headaches and cervicogenic headaches, and that'll be fun to chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. This has been a lively and fun discussion on headaches, and hopefully you've gotten something from it. I love Cheryl's note in the chat there that of all the different ways you can actually get magnesium. You don't have to take a supplement. It actually is natural in some foods. So thanks for your comments. Any other questions or anything else we can address? Again, a reminder for all of the TikTok followers that this is we go live every Tuesday afternoon. So that's 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern. We welcome you back next week. We'll do a continuation. We've got more to cover on headaches. So any other comments from Zoom, and if anyone on TikTok, please go to the link on the bio there and join the Facebook group, Healthcare Disruptors Well Wave Now. You can leave comments there and we'll respond to them.
All right, Tommy, you've come off mute. Did you have a
Yeah,
comment?
I got one question. I had a friend, I guess he got checked out by like a chiropractor or somebody, but they checked his head, and it's like a physical situation where his plates were not in line or something like that. She did something and his headaches went away. Any experience with that?
Yeah, well, the plates, the plates can be misaligned. They can also be compressed. I mean, I've had clients that had their whole scalp is so tight. It's like the outer layer of an onion squeezing down on the scalp, on the cranium, and you can create freedom in the scalp. You can really see my scalp quite well because I've got very little hair in front here, right? But anyway, you can create a lot of freedom of the scalp when people people have tight scalps, and you can actually help them. That can be a factor in their headache. So when you create that, I met a woman, had a client one time. I never felt the scalp so tight. I could almost not move it at all. Took me about 10 or 15 minutes to really get the whole scalp loosened up. And when I got the scalp loosened up, two things happened. One is that she had very less frequent headaches. That was one of the factors, but not the total factor. And the other thing is that she had peripheral coldness of hands and feet, always cold. And when I loosened up her scalp across her whole head, she lost that completely. She had, no more cold hands, no more cold feet. So that was probably related to the hypothalamus. But in any case, it was a very interesting phenomenon that I had never seen before. It's the only one I've seen since too.
Yeah, and I think that just gets back to parts of the Damar's comment and your comment. And what we started out a little bit earlier is always look at try to find the root cause and what's causing it, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's structurally musculoskeletal issues, whether it's kidney issues, whether it's something else that's driving it. Try to find the root cause as you and apply the proper techniques to address that. One thing for Damar, if you come back on, I would like to know what I know we talked about peppermint as an essential oil, but what did peppermint oil? What worked for your wife in terms of which essential oil, Damar?
well, peppermint was the ingredient. She had a blend, And so, and I don't remember exactly what was in the blend. It was probably 4 different items. So I want to say that it may have included um, um, myrrh,
Hmm.
and what was the other one? Yeah, I unfortunately it's been a while, and so she keeps it with her. So whenever she has an attack, she has it. So I can't really go
Great.
look and see.
I appreciate
Maybe
the
you can,
comment.
maybe you can get that information and provide it to us tomorrow. It's very interesting
Sure.
that she has a solution for herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as your wife did, I would say with all these things, whether it's supplementation, what's even food, I think three of us were talking earlier about now I've seen salmonella, and it used to be when Bob was a kid back in the old days, they find salmonella in eggs. Now, now it's in nuts, and it's in fruit, and this XYZ. So even check and I won't mention the name of any great, we probably get a little tagged there on TikTok. I won't mention the name of any some highly respected food chains, but it's even these highly respected food chains in it. So why do I say that? I think whether it's supplementation, whether it's food, whether it's essential oils, you'll always encourage to do the good research about the manufacturing practices of who's providing them, because there was even something, again, I think I don't remember when it was, but just a few years back, where it was essential oil from a well-known chain that it can contain things that are making some people sick. So great, but so we always have to look at our sources, do the best we can, the practices they provide, and where they're getting the materials from and how they manufacture and distribute it.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, that's been
Lavender. I just did a search. Lavender was and peppermint were
Yeah.
a combination that's quite often used.
Yeah.
And
And
that's good.
she
Lavender's good.
actually
Go
takes
ahead, Devon.
lavender supplement. She started with that, but then with the essential oils, those she does when it's an acute attack.
Yeah.
To
And lavender is also good for sleep. One of
Yeah.
our favorite topics as well. Key lifestyle component items.
Yeah. Oh, and Cheryl just put that in the
Right, she put it in the comments.
because yeah. So I did a quick search and found that that's a good combination is the peppermint and lavender.
sounds good. It's making me get tired just talking about it. Now, there's
Yeah.
a lot of ways to. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of ways to interrupt the patterns that lead to headache, and people just have to understand that there can be many different sources that work together to cause the headaches, and if they can figure out with the appropriate practitioners what those potential sources are, and then work with those, they can be free of headaches. It's really, really cool.
Yep. And we could probably even get into some of the dietary supplements next week that are used naturally. One thing that you'll always hear me say is that modern medicine has its place. We do a great job at acute situations. So I think that some of the big brands of over-the-counter pain medications are commonly used. And you notice we don't use names brands because we don't want to get kicked off of social media, but yeah, so some of those that well-known brand names that everyone takes for a headache, it's effective, but it doesn't actually make the headache go away. It just blocks the nerve receptors so you don't feel the pain. Those can also mess up your stomach pretty badly and get ulcers.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Yeah, so yeah, appreciate everybody being here today. It's always great to see everybody that joined on TikTok. Thanks for joining us. Remember, we're here every week on Tuesday afternoons at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern. Love to have you join us again. We'll continue on with this discussion of headaches and how to treat them all naturally. Thank you.
All right.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you
Bye.
later.
All
Enjoy.
right, take care.
See you next week.